in our little office before we became big, before we're trying to do it, pretty special. So Dave, for those again that don't know you, maybe just tell them a bit about who you are and what you do, and just introduce yourself, pretty much.
So, my name's Dave Shelor. I'm the branch manager here at Embrace Home Loans down here in Blacksburg. I oversee 4 offices here in southwestern Virginia, here Roanoke, Smith Mountain Lake, and we have an office over in Christiansburg. And what we do is we're a full-service mortgage company. Anything pretty much that's got a mortgage tied to it or associated with it is something that we can help people with. We do, residential housing. We do investment properties, 1 to 4 units, manufactured housing, condominiums, second homes.
So if you're looking for a loan for real estate, that's what you're up to.
We'd be a good place to start.
Yeah.
We can't hit everybody.
Honestly, if you come to me for real estate service, the first person I'm going to try to introduce you to is Dave. Dave is the first name that comes out of my mouth. If you're talking about going to see a home, is are you pre-approved? And if you say no, then I introduce you to Dave. That's my relationship with Dave, and that's why he's here. We're really just gonna dive into some things that are going on here in the world. What the real estate outlook's gonna be for 2021. What is happening here locally that we care about, and we want people to just know how we feel about it. So Dave, what's your 2021 outlook? How do you feel about the mortgage business? How do you feel about the real estate business in general? And give us your take on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before you get too into it, can you bring the mic just a little bit closer? There you go.
Absolutely. So, 2020 was a phenomenal year. My region, our offices here, we did just over $102 million in 2020.
Wow.
Closed almost 575 units between the offices. So.
That's spectacular.
It was a phenomenal year for sure. The kind of the thing about it though is, unlike past years, interest rates have been continued to be historically low.
Yeah.
Right. So we saw a lot of refinance business that complemented the purchase business.
Sure. So those are tallied up in your numbers.
Those are tallied up in our numbers.
Yeah.
So we were still a very heavy driven purchase company.
Yeah.
My area here, typically in the past years, it's been about 84% is purchase business. Last year we were right about 69% purchase business. So still a pretty strong market. But where I'm going with that, Scott, is inventory levels continue, right, to be just really, really challenged.
Razor thin.
So what we saw was a lot of folks that maybe contemplated coming out to market, but before they made that decision to list their property, they kind of did some research and discovered that maybe they just couldn't find something that would complement their move, right?
And maybe they were fearful of COVID.
Of COVID.
And they were just taking advantage of the opportunity to get in a little bit lower than it's like historically low, right?
Oh yeah, today, interest rates over the last 180 days, government money I've been able to quote under 2.
What?
On some VA and FHA financing.
Wow.
And conventional terms, before I walked out of here, with no discount points or anything. I was locking in purchase business on a 30-year conventional at 2 5/8, 2 3/4.
Wow, that's just unbelievable.
It really is, and it's been that way pretty much the entire year of 2020.
Do you think that's government stimulus in action? Like, do you think that their monetary policy is just going to, because of COVID, just drop the floor out of rates to encourage people to refinance and to encourage people to make purchases? And do you think that has something to do with the financial policies?
I think it has something to do probably with the financial policies, but I think more importantly, I think our federal government is they're unsure of what's going to happen in the future. Probably, I would say the last, 2, 3, and it's not party specific. I would say the last 2, 3, 4, even 5 years, there's been just this level of uncertainty, maybe a lack of trust.
Definitely a lack of trust.
And I think the federal government has really done some things to try to keep that stimulus outside of just doling out money.
Yeah.
And housing is probably one of the larger areas that they can, try to help and make sure things kind of stay on track.
Yeah.
So
They should be pretty dialed in on how to do that.
I mean, you
given
would
the
think,
crisis,
right?
given the crisis in '08, you would think that they would know how to keep housing above water.
Yeah. So COVID really brought presented some similar 2008, 2009 challenges, but different.
Yeah.
Right? So, 2008, 2009, we had the housing bust where you had,
Tell me if I'm right. Tell me if in 08 and 09, you were giving loans to people that you weren't verifying incomes that could have never and should have never afforded to buy the house. Today, people have just lost their job.
Right.
So there's two different things. It's one, in 08, the person never should have qualified to begin with because they didn't make enough money. Today, they made enough money, but the coronavirus took them down. And now the government can step in and help them survive the mortgage,
Right. So, and that's the similarities and the differences. So, 2008, 2009, Wall Street created these products that put it out to the originators and the companies to do.
Yeah.
And basically, if you, I hate to say it, but if you had a pulse and a decent credit score, you didn't show any documentation. And back, there was a time that a client here in Christiansburg, I closed a loan from application to the day they signed the paper in 17 hours.
Wow.
I can't do that today.
Give me some of that.
Yeah, I can't do that today. But I talked to the husband and wife at 9:30, 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, and we were signing paper, the loan package, Wednesday at 4 o'clock at the attorney's office.
Wow.
Now, of course, that can't happen today. But back to what I was going to say, Wall Street, back in 2008, 2009, created these products, but you could just, if you didn't have anything, you didn't have to show anything, and it was. The company I was with, we called it the Fast and Easy program.
Truly.
It was. But what ended up happening, of course, and if you've seen that movie, The Big Short, you kind of know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Wall Street created these buckets of products, but then those same Wall Street executives and companies created a reinsurance entity. And they bet against the viability of the products that they were selling, that we were selling. So they won on both sides. When we did the mortgage, no documentation, 100% down, it was guaranteed. And then the insurance company that these guys created guaranteed that this thing was going to lose, so they got paid when the money failed. So today,
nobody went to jail either. Unbelievable.
Very few people.
Like one guy.
I think one guy, and he was a scapegoat.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's been some other folks. There was a mortgage company and a mortgage servicer out there that he just about took down Deutsche Bank. It was back in the 2008-2009 crisis. So
if someone's in a home now. They've still got their jobs. They've still got everything, and they're evaluating their situation. What would qualify them to consider refinance?
So,
like what would it make sense for them to do? Because there's going to be closing costs. There's going to be cost of doing it.
There are.
What has to happen? What needs to be the benefit that they're going to get to go through the closing costs and then rolling it out back to the 30-year term or whatever they do to pretty much restart that loan?
So when I look at, there's a lot of variables, Scott. So when I look at someone that wants to refinance, if they've been in their property for 5 years and they're a 30-year note, I might look at doing a 25-year note, so I don't add back that additional 5 years.
Sure.
Right. And then the other thing too is you want to see what the purpose is, what they're trying to get out of it. Right now, 2 3/4, 3 3 1/8, 3 1/4. last year I was doing 30-year fixed at 4.25, 4.5, 4.75. So it makes a lot of sense. If you can save a point, it's something for you to go talk to your mortgage person about and see if there's some benefit there. The other thing too is, education, for example. If you've got kids that are in high school that might be going to college, and you've not had the ability to put together, a college fund, or you don't have the resources, and you would like to try to maybe help them and not necessarily have $100,000 in student loan debt, which is a whole nother crisis similar to the mortgage crisis that's coming.
Yeah. It's like, I think Robert Kiyosaki's saying the everything crisis.
It is the everything crisis.
Yeah.
It is insane the amount of student loan debt the United States has.
Yeah.
Students that kids have.
Yeah.
So you might want to, if you had $40,000 of equity and you wanted to help your son or daughter go to college, rather than 6.5% or 7% through Sally or Nelnet or somebody else, and you can get 2 3/4, borrow 2 3/4 for 30 years. It's fixed, and you've accomplished, help accomplish your child's education.
Yeah, I think, that's another topic for another show. But
Sure.
The parent and the child need to sit down and be like, what are you gonna be doing? What's the end game? Like, this is a business decision. This isn't 4 years of vacation. Even though you get to enjoy some freedom from me, like, you got to have a plan to go do this.
Let me ask you something, Scott.
Yeah.
So you're in the real estate business, and you got a house that you just listed.
Yeah.
And there's stuff that has to be done to it. How quickly can you get somebody in there to fix it?
Pretty quick.
Yeah. Tradespeople,
Well,
plumbers.
I just got a tight network, so there's a big demand of that. So if there was people that seen that need and had that passion, we need tradespeople for sure.
Badly.
And the fact of the matter is if they just did what they said that they were going to do, they showed up on time and they said please and thank you, they would dominate.
Yeah.
They would dominate.
Yeah. I mean, an electrician journeyman, a plumber journeyman, an apprentice, if they were to go out here, I swear they can write their own ticket.
Yeah.
They really can write their own ticket. I know we have had trouble, my wife and I have had difficulty finding reliable, timely, and I'm not even going to say reasonable. Let's take the reasonable cost aspect of it out of it.
Yeah.
I'm finding people to show up and people to do the work.
Yeah.
They're far and few between.
That's what I'm saying. Is if you did the basics, if you got into that trade that you were passionate about, electricity, plumbing, construction, whatever, if you just did the basics, you did what you said you were going to do, you showed up when you said you was going to show up, and you said please and thank you, you would own the town.
You would.
You would own the town. So encouragement. I hope that's encouragement for somebody that might stumble upon this video here in the New River Valley. It's time to get some of that vocational education back.
Absolutely.
For sure.
You don't have to have a 4-year degree to make $150,000 a year.
Yeah.
Especially in our market.
Right. Yeah.
So.
All right, let's dive into some of these issues going on here in our beloved Blacksburg.
All right.
We've been a part of the conversation on Facebook about how we felt about the Midtown special tax. Mm-hmm. I'm a consumer of Midtown. I would like to move my business to Midtown. I'd like to live in Midtown. I'd like to really be what they hope to be, that brand, live Midtown. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to having to pay a tax rate, like I was, a $2 million, it was a $2 million home, mm-hmm. It feels a little robbery. It feels like they're coming a little bit hard in a way that didn't require a lot of work or a lot of thought. And I was just wondering what you thought about that whole scenario and what, you've outlined some proposals and some ideas about what they could have done. What are those ideas?
So I love everything about Midtown.
Yeah.
And, that site has been, 15 or more years vacant.
Yeah.
And, the people that are heading that thing up and developing that thing up is,
top notch.
Top notch. More power to them.
Yeah.
They're great. They're local. They're great local people. Anyway, aside from that, That what's going in over there is not just a Midtown community
Yeah.
location or center, right?
Right.
This thing, when it's finished, is going to be something for the entire town to enjoy.
Yeah.
From the parking garage that's going in, the law enforcement, there's going to be supposedly a new police department building is going to be over there. I think there was some chatter back and forth about a new library going in over there. And then, of course, you've got, the Midtown aspect of it, the retail, the housing, the amphitheater, the green space. That's not Midtown specific. So that's not, if Scott Bunn were buying a place, that doesn't mean Dave can't come in there and walk around.
That's where Brewdoo's going to go. That's where all these festivals. They want to bring these festivals in. They want people traveling from outside of the Blacksburg community into Blacksburg to enjoy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you buy a place in Midtown, or let's just go back, if you were looking at a home in Midtown, and hypothetically the exact same house was across the street on Ehart, on the same street, you're going to pay 25 cents per $100 more to live on the left side of the street as you would on the right side of the street.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't understand why we would want to simply tax a four-corner, one-block area when it's something that the entire town of Blacksburg would be able to enjoy.
Yeah.
My philosophy is, and nobody likes taxes, right? But if there were things that the town needed to put money into, for example, that parking garage, I think is kind of where the crux is, right?
Yeah.
Then do a 5% tax or a 3-cent tax increase to the tax rate for everybody.
Yeah.
Not just assess a 25 cent or 30 cent, whatever it is,
What
just for Midtown.
I think you had an idea where it might not even require a tax rate increase at all. Like what was
Do a bond referendum.
so that's just some sort of loan from the government, right?
So the town, they could probably go similar to what they had on that property before, where there was some VDOT money that was given to them for part of the parking area over there, and then that was a whole big to do, and it was who's going to pay I understand who's going to pay that money back and forth. But
Yeah.
I think there are other ways that the town could have approached this and worked with the developer and the builder over there as to generate the revenue that they might need for the shortfall.
Here's my fear is that they want to claim that they're going to eliminate that tax when the parking garage is paid off.
It'll be interesting to see if that happens.
Now, when in history have they ever put a tax on somebody and then, we don't need that anymore, and gotten rid of it? I don't. I mean,
I can't think of anything.
I've only been. Let's just be honest. I've only been super aware of things like this for maybe the last 5 years of my life. So I'm not really on top of but what I've observed in 5 years is once they tax you, you're probably not going to get the money back. They're going to find other reasons. Oh, well, we need to do this. Oh, this came up. Oh, well, that came up. Mm-hmm. It's just never going to end.
Well, I mean, you hope that it would,
yeah.
right?
For the majority of my life, I've been very optimistic, and everybody's just going to do the right thing, and you're a great person until you tell me otherwise. But now I'm kind of getting to the point where, even with my local government, I'm like, what are you trying to pull here?
Yeah.
What is this? What are you doing to us? And especially as I've been on the board of my local association myself, and I see how nothing changes quickly,
right?
And there's so much political agenda, and there's just people that don't want things to change, and then there's one, and I've been one of them. I've been one in my association. I want change rapidly.
Sure.
So there's and this big tug of war going on. So my fear is that there's not enough tug of war going on in this council, and they're all leaning one way, and there's nobody thinking differently. It's all almost unanimous decisions.
Well, 2021 is the year that if we have folks that are interested can start making the change,
Gotcha.
because I think there are two people that are up for re-election.
Gotcha.
I think it's Representative Bush and I can't remember her name now. Susan Mattingly, I think.
Okay.
So if folks are interested,
So that'll be in the gubernatorial.
I think
race?
it's in November. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I think it's in November. So,
Gotcha. I've always wanted this platform to be something where people could, hear us talking about things, and maybe they get more informed and more energized about it. So, I would love for somebody that is a little bit more on the conservative side to be a proponent of stand up to somebody that's currently on this and challenge them.
Yeah.
Because, I love the quote where it says, if everyone's thinking the same, then no one's thinking.
And that's right. That's the truth. And listen, so I mean, I'm not saying, and these are my opinions, right?
Yeah.
They're not.
But here's the thing: you're a resident of the town.
I am.
I'm a future hopeful resident of the town. I already run my business in this town. Like, we care about this. These are topics people need to step up and care about, or it's just going to keep happening.
I just back on that topic. I mean, I just and perhaps they vetted and they had the conversation, they discussed it, and there were no other options. You know what? I mean, if that's the case, I get it, right? But right off the cuff, there is another option. Rather than just assessing this, 100% tax to the town, right?
Yeah.
It's a 100% increase on the town tax for this area. So basically, they took a marker and they just drew a big circle around Midtown and said, if you live here, you're going to pay an extra 25 cents per $100. Right? Spread that out over the whole town. A 2 cent, could you not have achieved the same result that you needed for if you've got a shortfall for whatever you've invested in this area, in the Midtown area?
Yeah.
Could you not have made that up for a 2 cent tax or a 3 cent tax to everybody, rather than just saying you're going to buy here, you're going to pay an extra 25 cents per $100? It's just not right, in my opinion.
So we take a stand ethically when we see redlining happen, right? Like, let's talk about that a little bit. What does redlining even mean? I mean,
so redlining was established back in the 30s, and it was established by the federal government because entities, government agencies, etc., government folks were literally taking a pen and they were drawing a circle around areas and subdivisions. And if it was, a minority subdivision, or if it was a economically challenged, a poorer subdivision, then in essence what was happening is you either wouldn't do business in that area, or you might charge differently rates or fees to do business with those individuals in those areas. Okay.
Yeah.
So, the federal government said, hey, this is a problem, right? And it is a problem. I mean, that's just, it's a problem. So it used to be legal to act in business that way, and now it's not.
Yeah.
You can't do that. So, again, my opinion, what's happened with Midtown is it's a reverse red line. So, I mean, we know that the properties in there from, I think, one of your previous individuals, one of the builders you interviewed, that was
Eagle
building
Construction.
Eagle Construction.
Yeah.
I mean, they're starting at those townhouses, I think, at $500,000 or $600,000.
Yeah.
So now, instead of hitting, folks in less fortunate, now they're going after folks that have really worked hard for what they have, and they're going to assess them and hit them for an extra 25 cents per $100 just because
they can afford it.
Just because they can afford it, because they make the money.
They won't miss it at all. They won't.
I think somebody actually said that.
Yeah.
I think there was a council person that actually said that.
Yeah.
But that's still not right.
Exactly.
I mean.
And here's the thing, is an ambitious guy like myself that wants to get in there, that is probably going to be on the, when I'm coming in 600,000, that's a big ticket for me.
Yeah.
I don't care what I'm doing sales volume wise. I'm a single guy trying to create this business and go through the pain of being what I want in life and getting what I want in life. And that's another pain. That's an extreme pain when they're taxing me at the same rate as if I went and bought a $2 million property.
Right.
versus I'm buying a $600,000 property basic.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be in Midtown. They're taking advantage of me wanting to be in Midtown, thinking that I won't miss that extra money when I actually could hire somebody. I could take that money and do all kinds of different things, philanthropy. I could do all kinds of different stuff with that to help me grow instead of handing my tax money away for a parking garage that they could have funded in a different way.
Right.
So,
No, I agree.
yeah. And this is a great transition into the gun thing that we were going to talk about, because Blacksburg's trying to put a gun. They're trying to legislate gun ban through government buildings and public spaces, and I'm sure they've got Midtown in mind. So me, Pro 2A, walks out of my house at Midtown into a zone that makes me an instant criminal.
Right.
Like, I want to read this article. I had planned on reading some news here with you and then just reacting. So I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this article from Roanoke Times that was dated, December 2nd. Blacksburg Town Council is set to act on proposed ordinance to ban the carrying of firearms inside public buildings and on streets being used for festivals, among other places. If passed, the ordinance would make Blacksburg one of just a handful Virginia locations that have taken such action, something that localities can now do based on local option measures passed by the General Assembly early this year that took effect in July. The council could take a vote on the matter at its January 12th meeting. Other localities have approved the measure are Fairfax, Arlington counties, and the cities of Charlottesville and Falls Church. I think this just makes common sense, said the Blacksburg mayor, Leslie Hager Smith. There are already prohibitions in courthouses and in schools. This just adds a few more public spaces. It's certainly something our residents have asked for over and over again. Prior to the new law, Roanoke City Council had for years asked the General Assembly to give it the authority to bar certain loaded weapons in City Hall. The city in 2016 unsuccessfully sought an outright gun ban. While Roanoke has yet to introduce a new ordinance on the matter, the city in its 2020 legislation agenda included a request for the law that gives local governments an authority to ban firearms in public buildings. The Roanoke City Council had also previously made that request. Now, my blood boils when I hear that these people want to infringe on something that should be unalienable, an unalienable right of being born in this country and protected by the Constitution. Mm-hmm. Is absolutely ridiculous, mm-hmm. in my opinion. You agree?
I do.
I mean, ex-military guy, I just can't imagine anybody doesn't see how, like, they just keep moving the bar and all of a sudden you're a criminal for just carrying. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It's I take issue with that. If I don't think that you have to have an ordinance. I don't think you have to have legislation to be respectful on both ends. Your gun carrier, as well as the location that prefers you not to bring that firearm into the building, right?
Yeah.
It's very clear if in the United States, if you sign the building, then no firearms allowed, then you have statutorily done your right and put everybody on notice not to bring your firearm into the building.
Yeah.
I got no problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah.
What I do have an issue with, I think you do as well, if I'm walking downtown and let's just say you're carrying, or if I'm carrying and it's concealed and I'm legal, and you're legal, if you do, and you go in through stepping out, you, as you've indicated, are a criminal.
I'm a class 1 misdemeanor away if for some reason. See, here's the thing. Yeah. If something does go down and I'm there saving the day and they realize I saved the day, they can still charge me. They're going to charge me a class 1 misdemeanor if they want to. You know, it's just I don't think they're back in. I think it's really about moral high ground and like comfy, feely, like feel goodies, and not so much of stats, probability, and statistics.
Well, a couple weeks ago, might have been 3 weeks ago, myself and a good friend of mine, Jason Massey, we went to the town council meeting and we expressed our concerns about this particular ordinance. The town attorney, of course, he made some comments about, where the drive was and the recommendations. And he didn't even actually make recommendations. I take that back. Mr. Spencer didn't make recommendations. He brought it to the council's attention that this was something that could be done, right? And I asked specifically to the mayor and the council people, what has happened in the town limits over the last 10 years that has caused someone to be uneasy of concealed person or something walking down the street? I mean, what has happened? I mean, we've had, we're not unlike other small town areas. I mean, there have been incidents, but a lot of that can be attributed, I think, in my opinion, to media. When the media kind of gets their teeth into something, you just see about it for weeks, right? I mean, I'm a little bit older than you are. I remember going to high school, and I'd pull up, and there'd be, 75 pickup trucks with shotguns in the windows at the high school.
Yep.
Right? I mean, now if you've got a pocket knife that's got a blade longer than an inch, you're expelled for whatever, right? So they couldn't answer, back to what I was saying, they couldn't answer why it was, other than, in their opinions, it was what the community wanted. Well,
So
where did that come from? How did the community know about this and say this is what we want?
The quote of, it's certainly something our residents have asked for over and over again. I am calling BS on that.
Yeah, I don't know where it is.
Don't let, how many people? 9 people stroke a pen, put it to a vote.
Yeah.
If you're going to change the Constitution, put it to a vote.
Well,
put it on the ballot.
if you're going to put that ordinance in play, then absolutely. I mean, put it to vote. Let the town, the people that you represent as a council person.
A fair and honest vote on an issue like this, I can accept the results of, because at some point it can be re-brought up and re-voted on.
Yeah.
And like I said, the dynamic of the council at its current state is scary, just because there's nobody with any other perspective. This is a unanimous thing. And what Blacksburg Council does not understand, in my opinion, is that they lead the New River Valley. They set what's acceptable for everybody else. Even in this article, they have a Christiansburg Town Council saying, Blacksburg has got it right. They're thinking the right way. No, they're not. In my opinion, don't infringe on the Second Amendment. It's not your place. And in this community right now, there's no demand, and it feels like they're hiding behind the mask of COVID to get it done, because they know that nobody's going to show up in big opposition.
There were, I think, 8 people at that council meeting that I went to a couple, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, remember when we were in there for Midtown?
Yeah.
The place was packed.
Yeah, had people out in the lobby area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it would be the same way, but everybo's afraid.
Well, listen, this thing comes to vote next Tuesday.
Yeah.
So,
I guess I got to put my mask on, and go.
Yep. If you, however you lean, right? If you support this, and that's the greatest thing about our country, right?
Yeah.
Is we can all agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And we each go home, if you lock your door, you go home, you lock your door, and you go to bed. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, and I feel comfortable and I feel safe.
Yeah.
And I don't need this particular ordinance for me to feel, safe or otherwise. Right. I really feel safe in my town.
Yeah.
And I do call, I've lived in Blacksburg for 18, 19 years now, and I call Blacksburg home.
Hey, I've never lived in Blacksburg, but when I travel, I tell everybody I'm from Blacksburg.
Yeah.
And I love Blacksburg.
Yeah.
I worked in Blacksburg my whole life, starting at the country club. I've adopted Blacksburg even as a Christiansburg guy.
Right. My wife, she received something 3 or 4 years ago, or 2 years ago. I don't remember when it was. One of her coworkers had bought it from Sugar Magnolia downtown, and It's the home sign, right? So you know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it's got the coordinates for the Blacksburg,
Yeah.
on
Your
it.
closing
And
gift on it, yeah.
So I mean, that's that I kind of stole that idea. That's where I got it from.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's hanging in our house.
Yeah.
The Blacksburg coordinates, and it says home on it.
Yeah.
So with a heart right there where the state of Virginia is.
Yeah.
I mean, just I don't know. I don't disagree with you. I think.
I think they need to stay in their lane. They need to. In my opinion, that's not something that they need to be deciding for the population. In my opinion,
Yeah.
so maybe this gets somewhere. I hope we can get some people that have power in stopping things like this. I mean, I know the General Assembly. See, that's the funny thing about laws, isn't it? Is they can pass a law, but it doesn't mean that it's right. It doesn't mean that it's correct. It doesn't mean it's not actually against the law. The laws that they passed was actually against the law.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that the United States Constitution means anything, they pass an unconstitutional law. In my opinion,
Yeah.
that's a strong
good
opinion.
point.
That's a strong opinion.
That's
Yeah.
a strong opinion for sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. All right, what else we got here? You got any questions over there, Sky? Anybody engaging with us so far?
Not so far.
Okay.
So you had asked me earlier on about what 2021 was going to bring, and
Yeah.
we got long in the tooth and digressed, right?
Sure.
So I think 2021 is going to be a stronger purchase market from what our strategists are telling us. If you read some of the information that you're seeing from Wall Street, the Mortgage Bankers Association, your real estate group, it's going to continue to be a stronger inventory. Is going to continue to be, I think, a problem for a lot of places. Price points are going to continue to be a problem. COVID's not going to go away. It's going to be here for a while.
Yeah.
And those individuals who are adversely affected as a result of COVID may or may not be able to get into the buying market. But I've told people forever. Our little neck, right? And that's the Pulaski, the Giles, the Christiansburg, the Blacksburg, Radford, our little market.
Yeah.
We're really somewhat insulated. We were insulated in 2008 and 2009.
Yeah.
We were insulated during COVID.
Yeah.
So, and the thing about it is if you look at it, I mean, you've got, 5 higher education locations, right? You got Tech, you got Radford, you got New River Community College, you got Roanoke College, you got Hollins College, you got Southwest Virginia Community College. All these places are within, 45 miles of each other.
Yeah.
So what might happen on the West Coast with a downturn, we'll have a little bit of a downturn, but we're always transient. We have people coming into the university system and leaving the university system.
Yeah.
So
What Amy in a prior episode, what Amy Hudson had to say was the transient nature coming in is still possible, but keeping these people from flowing out, they might consider staying here since it is such a little hidden gem of an area, and they don't necessarily have to go to big metropolitan areas now. So we might actually see some growth of it all, which would be awesome.
I mean,
which is scary though because we have no housing options.
I'm telling you, that we've got I don't know. You tell me, Scott. There's 7, 8 builders that are good builders in our market.
The bigger names.
The bigger names.
Yeah.
And I just don't think, kind of going back to what we talked about in the beginning, they just can't. I don't think they can keep up to the degree that they want to.
Yeah.
Because they can't find those tradespeople to come in and do what needs to be done. They can't find framers. They can't find plumbers. They can't find electricians.
Well, the problem is too is they cannot profitably build a home for the entry level home buyer.
Right.
The entry level home buyer hasn't had a new product in this area in 15 years.
I agree.
The $150,000 to $180,000 home that doesn't exist if it's newer than 10 years old.
Well, and see, so that's where your industry working with our industry comes into play. And I mention this because let's talk about the renovation products, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody can buy a property for $120,000 or $130,000, a 1,1300 square foot house that's really dated. There's government renovation products that mortgage companies can do. There's conventional renovation products that mortgage companies can do, where you can actually roll the cost of your renovations into the mortgage when you close.
Yeah.
So you still might have a 1960s or a 1970s constructed house, but now you got a 2021 upgraded home just that was built, 60 years ago, 55 years ago.
True.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
And then when you've done that, more than likely, most of the time, the value of that property, the day it's finished, might be worth more than what you got in it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
And I am seeing the newer homes being presented versus the older homes at the same price. The older homes at the same price crush.
Yeah.
So there's something to product cost for these builders too.
Yeah.
With whatever municipality red tape they got to go through, that just puts them in an area that the first time entry level home buyer is struggling.
Yeah.
And I wish it wasn't that way. I wish there was some incentive that made that there was some grant or there's some way that we could get some entry level housing going in the New River Valley, because it's desperately needed.
there's been several attempts to bring low pricing new construction into the markets, and it just hasn't been able to
The
happen.
private sector can't make it.
No, they
For
can't
some
build. They
reason.
can't build a home for a loss.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't sell a house for a loss at this new construction that they build, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they just can't do it.
I mean, even in our most rural areas, they're popping up at $350.
Yeah.
All down in Reiner and
What's supply and demand?
even in Shawsville. Did you see that new development in Shawsville?
Yeah, I think that's
That's like
that's
Shaw.
Shaw. That's a Shaw development.
That's going to be like 200,000 starting.
Yeah.
I think 190 maybe.
Yeah.
So that
It's-
might be.
it's what's it called between. It's like in it's right there in the middle, right? You're
Yeah.
going to Roanoke this way and you're coming back this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's encouraging, but we're hoping that people will be accepting of that and like be willing to live down in that area, because that is kind of a middle ground. It's kind of off the. That's on the. We'll call that the fringe. We like to get something not so much in the fringe that people actually want to be in those locations to have opportunities.
Sure.
Anyway, I think that's a good show. I think we got a lot out here. What's the runtime on this guy?
45 minutes.
Okay. Well, Dave, man, I really appreciate your time, and we'll have you back. I hope you'll come as often as we'll invite you.
Yeah, man.
And
absolutely.
I
appreciate it.
let me before we go, I got to plug Dave. I gotta get to his website and show you guys this website, because if you are a real estate client of mine, you will be headed this way. So this is DaveShelor.com. Embrace Home Loans. You're going to go in here. You're going to hit the Apply Now option. You're going to submit your application. You're going to notate that you're working with me, and he'll get you shuffled up top the line.
I will definitely do my best.
Right on. All right, guys. Again, Dave Shelor, Embrace Home Loans. Man, appreciate you.